prospects in the market for Internet of Things and Italy are actually quite good. And as we saw today at the Osservatorio, when the report came out, this is of course also due to the smart metering contracts and to the fact that we'll have all these smart meters in the country, but also the smart car and smart home are doing extremely well. It was just that I sort of missed the wearable section a bit, but basically the prospects for Internet of Things in Italy are excellent. The key factors for IoT development is basically the data and data ownership. So the Internet of Things as such is not something very, very new. It's been around for 50, 60 years. There's automation, pervasive computing, ubiquitous computing, ambient intelligence. It's only now that we have the cloud, all this capacity to actually store all this data and do something with it, that we now have this Internet of Things, and this is growing so tremendously fast. But what we begin to see is that you can gather data, but actually then you store data, and then you act on that data. So the continuing factor in that is data. And what we see in Europe is that basically all the data that we actually talk about is in the hands of American over-the-top players like Google, Facebook, Amazon, Uber, Airbnb, and what have you. So more and more people begin to see that as we in Europe start to invest more and more in infrastructure and even in 5G and all this connectivity, actually, why shouldn't we invest more in our own platforms, in let's say Italian IoT platforms, European IoT platforms, and in an Italian cloud or in European cloud that actually harvest all the data of all the citizens and actually putting all that data in there, coming from the people, the machines and all the processes in the smart cities. The Internet of Things been going on for about, let's say, 10 years with the cloud coming up and all the potential of actually connecting all these things. We begin to see that people are also politically becoming more aware of this in certain blocks. So especially in the States, there's talk about cyber physical systems. In China, there's talk about a China OS, a China operating system. And in Europe, I think this is just beginning to become part of an issue, because what we have done in Europe is foremost, we invested a lot in our infrastructure, we invested a lot in the connectivity, but we did not really invest in European platforms. And we also did not really think about a deep level of integration. Also maybe because we are 27 or 28 countries and not very well aligned at some point. Well, I was in the Internet of Things expert group in 2010 that was then led by Gerald Santucci, who is now head of knowledge sharing in the European Commission. I think he is the single most important person so far that we have known in the history of Internet of Things in Europe and in the Commission. But he was not allowed basically at that point to carry on his work. And because of all kinds of political reasons that were thinking about that future internet would be more important than Internet of Things and all these kinds of little things. And that broke off a discussion on a high political level that we had in Europe very, very early. So I think again we see that Europe is always too early. It's very, very much early on ideas. We're early on ideas. We're early on early integration, and then we sort of don't seem to be able to carry that through. Of course, nothing's lost at the moment, and I hope, especially that days like today, where here in Milan we had about 900 to 1,000 people in the Osservatory at this moment coming up. We're doing absolutely fantastic things for raising awareness on a high-level decision-making of corporate industry leaders and political figures that were here today. Of course, what we're missing in the debate is the citizen. So what we're totally missing at this moment is the opinion of everyday life and the opinion of people that are going through everyday businesses. I think it's extremely important that we're going to raise this awareness, not only on a high strategic level with lots of decision makers, but also on the ground with people and with citizens, because actually this is about us, and this is going to affect our life, and this is going to affect how our children are going to live in the coming decades. So I think Europe is beginning to understand it, and I hope it will set through this time.